You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Wednesday, the 5th of June. And my name is Holly Wainwright.
Well, that's good to know. I'm Leah Freedman.
And I'm Em Vernem, filling in for Jessie today. You might have heard me on our daily entertainment podcast, The Spill.
Welcome, welcome, Em.
Thank you.
On today's show, two embarrassing dads face off, a Prime Minister who's trying to lose, and Britain's Trump saying, hold my beer. My very chaotic and biased rundown of what's going on in the UK election.
Will there be a skirt and will it have shit on it?
Almost certainly.
Out Louders want to know.
Plus, everybody wants and I do have to check my notes here, sexy rodent boyfriend.
Correct.
This is apparently what Gen Z wants, and seriously, I thought the sock chat was a lot. And the Billionaire Ex-Wives Club changing the world. But first, Mia Freedman.
In case you missed it, an otherwise dull Senate estimates hearing, is there any other kind, was livened up when a Liberal senator suddenly made an interesting comment that everybody laughed about. This off-the-cuff comment by Liberal Senator for Victoria and Shadow Minister for Finance, Senator Jane Hume, was made in Budget Estimates 2024 Economics Legislation Committee hearing. Is anyone still listening?
No.
Anyway, it was on Tuesday and the chair of ASIC, I don't even know. Anyway, Joe Longo. Anyway, just listen.
Morning, Mr. Longo. I feel this is very awkward. Every time I see Mr. Longo now, it seems to be at the gym on Saturday mornings. So I apologise for the lycra. But that's all right.
These are yours.
Less worthy men have seen me in far less. So.
I want to reassure the committee that I will never be seen in lycra. I can reassure the committee
Kind of forgot myself
I will never
for a
be
moment.
seen in lycra.
Oh, I think it's important they have a laugh. I just thought that was the coolest
You think
thing
it's
to say.
important they have a laugh?
Well, you know, how boring is it? They've got to stay awake. But I loved what she said. Less worthy men have seen me in far less. I just thought that was the coolest thing to say. You know, do you ever think about how many people have seen you naked? Like which particular people have seen you naked and whether they were worthy of ever seeing you naked?
It's true. I didn't actually go that deep when I watched this video.
I didn't actually ever consider that it was a privilege to see me naked, but hey, now you put it that
It
way.
is. I would say
what
it
I
is
like
privilege.
about this, like there are more serious issues.
Correct.
But it's one of those little moments that lifts the lid. Like they all go to the same gym. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the fact that these
Canberra's like a
politicians,
slumber party.
yeah, these politicians are bumping into each other in the gym in the morning, seeing each other in the lycra. I kind of like to know that. I thought that was funny. Has she been getting any shit for that?
No, I don't think so. People think it's funny. I think it's funny.
I'm very proud of her because this is what I see sometimes when I'm talking to both of you. Like in my head, I have this one zinger and I know we're going to be talking about something and I want to say it and then I want to leave the room and I want you both to be talking about me afterwards and saying how funny I am. And that's exactly what she was doing.
She did. She zinged.
Mad respect, Jane Hume.
Have you ever tried to get fired because you hated your job? Or maybe tried to get your partner to dump you because you were too gutless to call it yourself? No, I think only men do that. Or pretended you didn't know how to do something so that nobody ever asks you to do it again. Hello, Jessie Stevens and the Bolognese. Well, something similar is happening in Great Britain right now, where the sitting Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, appears to be trying to lose a general election. Because, let's face it, the shit skirt that is post-Brexit Britain has become unwearable.
He's quite quitting.
He is so quiet quitting.
Is he the one that replaced the lady who was the lettuce?
Yes.
Oh,
he
the expiry date
is.
lettuce.
Yeah, and she was like the Prime Minister for 2 seconds. So they just keep, it's like the hot potato that no one wants to hold on to, the leadership
Yes.
of
So this
the
is
UK.
my
It seems like quite a big job. Why does no one want it?
welcome to my very highbrow, definitely biased and rather chaotic explainer of
Let's
what's
go.
going on in the UK election.
I don't even know which party Rishi
Okay,
Sunak
let
is
me
from.
talk to you. So Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. Now, he's a Tory, which is a Conservative, which is in Australian language a Liberal.
Okay.
Pretty much.
The Liberal Party,
Right.
yep.
He has been Prime Minister ever since, as you say, Liz Truss, who is the shortest ever serving Prime Minister, famously lasted less time than a supermarket lettuce. They've had 5 Prime Ministers over the past 14 years, even though the same party has stayed in power for the last 14 years.
That's a long time for one party to
The
stay in
Tories
power.
have been in power for 14 years in Britain now.
They need to spice it up.
But they have changed the leader many times, which is very familiar to us
Yeah, we do that.
because we had that period of time where we kept swapping the players in as if it was like Pippa's kids on Home and Away. Like, you won't notice that a new actor is playing the role of Australian Prime Minister today.
There was a time where I genuinely didn't know who our Prime Minister was.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that in Britain. So he hasn't been in the job very long, but his party have. And things have not been great lately. The economy is not very good in Britain. The whole cost of living thing there is a lot worse than here. And public services like health have been really hollowed out by cuts. So everybody in Britain is really pissed off. Mm-hmm. Things to know about Sunak are first ever non-white Prime Minister, first ever Hindu Prime Minister, one of the youngest ever Prime Ministers. He's only 44. He is exceptionally rich. He is a former hedge fund manager who's married to the daughter of a tech billionaire, and they are worth more than £730 million. That's more than $1 billion, friends. And also things to know about him. He looks like a young dad who's trying to be cool at the school disco.
Oh, yes, I heard that he wore Sambas and then suddenly no one wanted to wear
The sales
Sambas anymore.
dropped.
Yeah.
He got Sambas cancelled in Britain. I was there at the time. It was very sad for everybody. But also I may have just wasted 5 minutes because Rishi Sunak is definitely not going to be Prime Minister after July 4th, so you don't really need to know much about him.
He called a snap election that caught a lot of people by surprise. Why did he do that?
And what's a snap election?
So it means that just like here in Australia, there's a term in which you have to call an election. So they had to call an election before the end of the year because there's, 4-year terms, right?
Yeah.
But he just went, we're going to have one in like 3 weeks. Let's go.
He can do that?
Oh, he's just over it.
He is so over it because he knows he's going to lose, right? The guy who's probably going to win is the Labor leader, Keir Starmer. Now, he is a former human rights lawyer. Oh. He's been leading the party since 2020 and sorry, that was a micro sleep because Starmer is so unbelievably boring that nobody needs to know anything about him.
If he's a human rights lawyer, does he know Amal Clooney?
Yes, he does. He knows Amal. He works for the same chambers she used to work for. He knows Jen Robinson. He knows all those people.
Well, that's interesting.
So he's boring but has some sort of celeb status.
He is desperately
Amal adjacent.
He's Amal adjacent.
He's been in the same room with Amal.
Yeah. He is trying to keep himself boring. Labor are running one at what they call a small target campaign because the Tories are so unpopular that they know they're going to lose and Labor just don't have to fuck it up. That's their job. Don't fuck it up. So don't say anything. Don't stand for anything. Don't be interesting.
Hey, when he called the election, I was reading something about he was in the rain with an umbrella.
Yeah, Rishi Sunak said it was so
Mary
funny.
Poppins over here.
It was so funny because he stands outside number 10, which is like outside the front door of the lodge or whatever, right, to announce it. And he's doing this whole, we've got a plan, we're the safe pair of hands. But obviously no one had read the weather forecast and he stands out there and it starts absolutely pissing it down. And nobody on his staff had an umbrella.
Oh, my God.
And so the Prime Minister of Great Britain standing there going like, you're in safe hands. And he is literally as wet as Taylor Swift doing the freaking Eras tour in Lisbon.
Oh, that's so good.
Anyway, everything was going along very boring, very normal, except so Sunak, knowing that nobody is going to vote for him, is throwing out a few like wild policies. You've probably read about this one, right? He has said that he is going to reintroduce national service, so military service.
What?
For all Britons over 18.
We have so much to be proud of in Britain, but one of the problems in our society is that we have generations of young people who don't have the opportunities they deserve. Britain today faces a future that is more dangerous and more divided. There's no doubt our democratic values are under threat. That is why we will introduce a bold new model of national service for 18-year-olds, to be spent either in a competitive full-time military commission over 12 months, or with 1 weekend per month volunteering in roles within the community, like delivering prescriptions and food to infirm people, or in search and rescue. Young people will gain valuable skills, make our country more secure, and build a stronger national culture.
This is how I'm into this because I live on TikTok, live and breathe TikTok. Suddenly all these UK creators that I've been following for ages have started posting these TikToks of them going, get ready with me as I go to war. And I'm like, what's going? So this is it. Yeah. Like, this is what's happening.
Revoke my rights. Revoke it and put me back in a kitchen cooking a Vicky Sponge. I drafted for war. Are you all right? I don't do well under pressure. I cried during my geography GCSE. I am not the one. And also, wrong generation they've picked. Not me going to war. That's all you'll see. How I do my base for a long day at war. That's all you're going to get. TikTok shop's going to be rolling. Get Rishi Sunak out there. Get him out there. If you want to push this so hard, you go.
That is what the young people are saying. But
it's true.
It is so true. And I'm not. What do you expect me to do at war? I am not even joking that the polling shows that literally no one in Britain under the age of 65 is voting for the Tories. Like literally nobody. They've got minus support, nothing. So that aside, everything was going along really, really boringly. And then Piers fucking Morgan. He's always causing trouble. Piers Morgan goes on TV. And he goads one of Britain's worst human beings, Nigel Farage. I told you this was a very biased recap. Nigel Farage, who's basically Britain's Trump. I'll explain that a bit more in a minute. He says, where have you gone? Since you caused Brexit, you've disappeared. And he's always in America, like having lunch with Donald Trump and touring the world, talking about the new right and everything, this British guy. He's like, why aren't you in this election? Bottled it, mate. You've got no balls, all this kind of stuff.
Also, Piers Morgan trolled Nigel Farage.
Live on Question Time. And so Nigel Farage went away and thought about it for a day and went, you know what? This is how these serious middle-aged men carry on. He's like, you know what? I'm going to prove that Piers Morgan wrong. And he called a snap press conference where the leader of the party that he used to be part of, called Reform, resigned live on the stage and said, we've asked Nigel to come back.
Oh, my God.
And Nigel comes back. Now, just to give a bit of context, he really does think he's Donald Trump. The Reform Party used to be called the Brexit Party, used to be called the UKIP Party, and their slogan is literally make Britain great again. Oh, God. They're kind of like one
plagiarism?
Nation. Almost certainly. They're kind of like one nation. So if a place had a UKIP seat, it's kind of like the assumptions you might make about a place that had a one nation seat, right? If you knew a place had a one nation MP, you'd probably say, probably anti-immigration, probably this and that.
Yeah.
That's who Farage is, right? So he stood up and he said, I'm back and I'm going to stand for reform and I'm going to be voted in and it's all going to be great.
Yes, a revolt, a turning of our backs on the political status quo. It doesn't work. Nothing in this country works anymore. The health service doesn't work. The roads don't work. None of our public services are up to scratch. We are in decline. This will only be turned around with boldness.
The thing that's interesting about all of this is that not him, not the Tories, not the Labour Party, anyone has mentioned the B word, Brexit, through this entire campaign, because Brexit has been an act of self-harm to Britain, right? They are the only big northern hemisphere country whose economy's gone backwards since the COVID recovery. The left don't want to talk about it because it makes them look like losers and also they can't fix it. The right don't want to talk about it because they championed it and it's been a disaster. And Farage, whose party was literally called the Brexit Party.
Oh.
He's just pretending it's not happening.
They're just pretending it's not happened. So everybody's just moving along, nothing to
Could
see
it ever
here.
be undone?
Look, it
Go
would
back in.
be, if you consider how long it took
Yeah, right.
for that shit to go through. So nobody actually thinks that Nigel Farage is going to be the Prime Minister.
What a
right?
bin fire.
I know.
And I saw something about on his first day of campaigning, someone threw a milkshake on him, which we do not support.
I know. The thing that's interesting about Farage and why he is a bit of a scary character, right, is that he isn't going to be Prime Minister, no way. But what everybody's saying is he wants to get himself voted into Parliament so that he's in there, so that he can have greater influence and eventually take over the Tory party, bring it to the right and make Britain great again.
Oh, God.
And he's a very populist Trump-esque figure, right? So he's quite good at messaging. He's got, until he had to quit it this week because now he wants to be Prime Minister, he has a late night talk show like Sky News After Dark or whatever. And he literally is always at Donald Trump's house. He's the one who introduced Holly Valance to Donald Trump, Australia's own
This
Holly
isn't
Valance.
getting better.
So any questions for
Don't
why?
we look mild in Australia?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm 28 living in London in my skyrise apartment.
You're a Skyrise pub? No, you're not.
If I vote for Sunak, I'm going to war.
You are.
If I vote for
Farage.
I'm brown, so I'm going to jail.
Certainly.
Probably.
Yeah.
And the other one is I'll just be bored to death.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly those are your
Okay.
options. And most people
Cool.
are ticking the boring box.
I'd
But-
take the boring box.
But we all know you can't count on anything these days, so we'll see. Okay, if you would like any more updates, Outlouders, please let us know. If you would like me to never talk about this again, please let us know too.
To be clear, Outlouders, we are not laughing at war. There are wars going on all over the world. They are terrible and tragic and devastating. We are laughing at the utter self-harm that this policy is as a policy. Military service and what, conscription?
Isn't a person under 80 who thinks that's a good idea.
Everyone wants a sexy rodent boyfriend. And we need to find one soon, so we're prepared for Rat Boy Summer.
Oh, my God.
So the rodent boyfriend, or the rat man, the sexy rat man, has kind of been around for a while, but it's found its place in society recently when the movie Challenges came on our screens. Have you guys seen Challenges?
I have not seen Challenges, but I've seen a lot of headlines and everybody says it's very sexy.
It is very sexy.
And it's also been a really big success.
Yeah, it's huge.
Does Zendaya have a threesome? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, like threesome adjacent, I want to say. They don't go deep. But it stars Zendaya, Mike Feist, and Josh O'Connor. You might know Josh from The Crown, young Prince Charles.
maybe?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
right, right.
I care about her.
Why would I care about her?
Because I care about her! Morning, noon, and night I care about her!
Okay, got it.
Thank you. So it's about tennis. It's about this kind of love triangle between them. So they've been doing a lot of press because the movie's been very successful. And there was this one time where they were on a red carpet somewhere. Josh O'Connor was photographed wearing this kind of oversized shirt, like having a really cheeky smile on his face. Someone tweeted, "He looks like a very kind-hearted mouse who got turned into a prince." And that tweet went completely viral. And then the two leads of the film, so Josh and Mike, have been compared to rodents and saying that everyone wants a rodent man. So Mike is like Stuart Little and Josh is like the mouse from Flush Toy.
Rita, you can't just leave me here on a dock. I was not sneaking around.
What about Remy the mouse in Ratatouille? Oh, no, he's a rat. A rat's a rodent?
Rodent, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he could also be Remy.
Yeah.
The original rodent boyfriend was Matt Healy.
Because he
Taylor
looks
Swift's
like a
ex.
rat or because he is a dirty rat?
Kind of both. So, okay, firstly, being a rat boyfriend is like aspirational.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So I want a rat boyfriend.
Yeah. So let me go through some features of the rat boyfriend.
Okay, yeah.
So rat boyfriend has angular features like small mouth, pointy nose. They're not who you would describe as conventionally attractive.
So Timothy Chalamet.
Yes, you're getting it now.
Looks like a old kind of a boot, but like a pointy goblin's boot.
As in like sexy, like very sexy, cool.
Like pointy.
A pointy nose and a small mouth.
Well, like little features.
I think
like
you should get my boyfriend Timothy Chalamet's name out of your mouth, Mia Freedman.
Still very hot.
We will never fight over men.
They're not conventionally attractive, but they're still very hot. They're also like some personality traits. So they're the opposite of toxic masculinity, and they love to show public affection towards their partners, like really love them. We all see they love them. It's a bit weird, but we find it really good.
So they're not alpha males. They're not like
They're wife guys.
No.
no.
I thought wife guys were good.
So personally, I would say that you want to be in a
different
situationship with a rodent boyfriend, but he's not endgame.
Oh.
yeah. Hence Matty Healy.
Right.
Show you a really good time while he's there. You don't want him to put a ring on it.
Does this explain why a lot of the new heartthrobs, in inverted commas, like if you think about a Hollywood heartthrob, traditionally let's think like Channing Tatum, Henry Cavill, Tom Hardy, like these like chiseled big dudes.
Ryan
These guys are
Reynolds.
like the opposite.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah. So you remember we had that whole thing about everyone wants a golden retriever boyfriend. And we're like, no, we're over it now. Now we want a rodent boyfriend.
I'm glad we're objectifying men this way. Who else?
Jeremy Allen White.
Oh, it's him.
Kieran Culkin's a good one.
Actually, Jeremy Allen White, who's the guy from The Bear,
Yeah.
he does look like a rodent.
He does a bit.
And it's not just about the features. It's also about like the personality, what they're putting out in the world. Timothy Chalamet, because he's like always really cuddly with Kylie Jenner publicly.
He's
Is there
more
a
like a mouse.
softness about them?
Yeah, I would say so.
They're not threatening.
No, like they have like a bit of a feminine energy going on.
Yeah.
It's just like big eyes, little pink nose. This is baby reindeer.
Oh,
That's a whole other thing.
What about that weird looking dude in, and no offense, sorry everybody, I'm just being really offensive. What about that very talented actor who dances naked in Saltburn? Barry Keoghan.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Barry Keoghan's a good
Total.
one. I think he might be rat boy with a golden retriever rising.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he has tendencies
I
of
thought
golden
he was
retriever.
quite rat boy. You know, it's funny because in the previous segment, I felt my IQ rising. And I think any gains that were made there, but not that that's a bad thing. I like to keep my IQ at a manageable level.
That's Mamamia out loud.
Well, I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
managing it.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we drop new segments of Mamamia Out Loud just for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get your daily dose of Out Loud, and a big thank you to everyone who is already subscribed. Melinda French Gates has pledged $1 billion to support women's rights in the United States as she prepares to leave the foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that's going to need a new name. That's the foundation she co-founded more than 2 decades ago with her husband, Bill Gates, who was the founder of Microsoft, as you may remember. Within that $1 billion that she's pledged, $1 billion American dollars, there is $200 million that are going to go to organisations fighting for gender and reproductive rights in the US. She published an op-ed for the New York Times this week, and she revealed she'll be spending the money on people and organisations working on behalf of women and families around the world. She basically says that giving money to women and helping women have freedom and control over their bodies and financial freedom, that can really make a massive difference in entire communities and can change generations. Now, there's another billionaire called Mackenzie Bezos, who used to be married to Jeff Bezos. They sort of co-founded Amazon together. They got divorced quite a few years ago, and she's another one that gives away billions of dollars. She's one of, along with Melinda French Gates, one of the richest women in the world, one of the richest people in the world. What's interesting about the way that the two of them give money is that according to all the organisations that they donate to, they just give it very quietly. They don't want buildings named after them. They don't want big press releases. Often these organisations will say, you know, they're just going about their business on a normal Thursday, trying to make the world better for a group of people. And they'll just get contact from the office of Melinda or Mackenzie Bezos. It will be their foundation saying, can you give us your bank details? We're going to put millions of dollars into your account. And they don't say how they want it spent. They basically just, you know what you're doing. We think what you're doing is good. We've done our due diligence. Keep doing what you're doing. Now, the concept of female billionaires versus male billionaires and what they do with their money has highlighted something kind of interesting, which was discussed on the Pivot podcast this week. Journalist Kara Swisher, who's interviewed many billionaires in the tech world, including Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates, she had this to say about it to her co-host, Scott Galloway.
These sort of childish men are doing their stupid Trump fundraiser with very little money that they're putting out to get a lot of influence and doing no good for humanity except for themselves, except for like self-aggrandizing themselves. Both Chamath and David Sachs and also Elon Musk is doing this, but doing nothing to help all of society. They're just giving a piddling amount of money to whorish politicians in order to have influence. Meanwhile, Melinda Gates and Mackenzie Bezos are using money, real money, not little tiny multi-million-dollar, $5,000 donations to have dinner with someone who has been found liable for rape. No, they're not using their money for that. They're giving away billions and billions of dollars to laudable people across the globe to make the world a better place. What a fucking comparison. These men are sad and dickless, and these women have balls as big as all ever. That's all I'll say.
Dickless, Jesus Christ.
Tell us what you really think, Kara.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so amazing.
One of the things she's referencing there is that a lot of tech billionaires in San Francisco are having a Trump fundraiser. And this has kind of really outraged a lot of people for obvious reasons. But, you know, it used to be that tech billionaires would be like, don't be evil, we're going to make the world a better place and all those things. But they know very clearly that a Trump presidency would be good for them. He's not going to regulate them. He's not going to tax them. He's just going to enable them to keep stockpiling their dollars. And that's why Kara Swisher in particular in that instance was drawing that very stark comparison to what the women are doing.
With these political fundraisers, is it just to kind of show face, like, I'm supporting this person? Like, does the money actually, is it needed?
It is
Desperately.
needed because campaigning in America is unbelievably expensive, long, complicated. You need very deep pockets. But also what it buys you is influence, right? But the point that Swisher was making, because you've got caps on how much you're allowed to legally donate to political parties, that they're not even throwing around that much money for that influence. But it's all dick swinging.
It's all sucking up. And not to say that there aren't a lot of men who are doing great things. Like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have done incredible things, you know, like working towards stamping out malaria in parts of Africa and their immunisation programs. I mean, that organisation has done so much. So hashtag not all billionaires. I think that what was interesting was if you look at Mackenzie Bezos and Jeff Bezos, the differences in their lives after they split. Jeff Bezos, after their divorce, he recoupled with Lauren Sanchez. He's bought a super yacht for $500 million. He's bought like half a dozen houses each worth around $100 million.
He's also become very muscle-bound.
He also did, I should note, in the interest of fairness, in 2020 he started the Bezos Earth Fund with a personal commitment of $10 billion, which is not a lot for him, to be dispersed as grants to address climate and nature within the decade. So it's not like they don't give money, and we also don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But what's interesting is the way these women just very quietly go about making a difference without asking for anything in return to feed their ego.
That is what's interesting about this, right? Because there's a lot of kind of like, billionaires, right? The thing is that we didn't used to have as many. When I say we, I don't mean us. We don't have any. I mean the world didn't used to have as many as we do have now. And these people are the most powerful people in the world, right? They can buy and sell politicians. They can have real impact on things like climate change. They can have real impact on medical research, all these things. What they choose to do with this existential wealth is important. And what's interesting about these women, it's not like they're renting. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're living very nice lives. But they are modelling a kind of philanthropic generosity that can actually make a real difference without control. So, as you say, Mia, often if you've got a foundation with your name on it, there are lots of reasons why I might do that, and many of them do really amazing work. But there's a lot of cost associated with that, whereas if you are literally looking at the people who are working in an area best in their field and going, these people know exactly what they're doing, they're already in there on the ground, whatever it may be, whether it is curing malaria, whether it is dealing with public education shortages or whatever, go and give the money to those people rather than thinking, well, now that I'm rich, I can fix everything. And one of the things that's interesting, Melinda, she is choosing to give her money to causes that help women, as you say, Mia. And one of those people she's giving money to is Jacinda Ardern. The former Prime Minister of New Zealand is getting $20 million from Melinda to do, I don't know.
For what?
Something good. I
But
don't know.
like what?
Renovate a house.
Not renovate a house. Something good, I'm sure. I don't know exactly what.
I'm interested to know, Em, this idea that women should give away all their money, whereas that expectation is not placed on men. Do you think that's unfair? I mean, do these women do it almost preemptively?
Yeah, I think firstly, women in general want to be liked, and that's why they do it. But it's hard for me to separate the man and woman from the billionaire status because these people are still billionaires, and I struggle comprehending that there are billionaires in our world. Like no one.
Gina Reinhart's a billionaire. We've got billionaires.
Yeah, but
she
no
might
one
be the
needs
exception
to
that
be
proves
a
the rule.
Anthony Pratt. We've got a number of billionaires.
We've got heaps of billionaires, but no one needs to be a billionaire.
One of the things I think is interesting, though, about to your point, Mia, about whether or not we expect women to be more generous and philanthropic than men, we definitely do. We see this when it comes to female celebrities. So Taylor Swift, Beyonce, for example, two of the most high-profile and wealthiest women in entertainment. Well, maybe the world, I don't know. Everybody always wants to know what they do and what they give away. And they actually do a lot and give away a lot. Beyonce has a foundation called the Be Good Foundation, which is all about vulnerable communities in America and supporting Black-owned businesses and supporting public education and all these things. Taylor Swift uses her money at her discretion to drop in certain causes. I don't see the Ed Sheerans and Harry Styleses of the world being examined so closely about what they do with their money. And I'm sure they do lots of good things with their money. I'm not saying that they aren't. But it's like we just expect that women are kinder and more caring and more giving. And sometimes I wonder why that is.
Melinda Gates in that conference, she said, when we allow this cause to go so chronically underfunded, we all pay the cost. I don't think she's paying the cost. And I also find it a bit...
But hang on, what do you mean? Like you don't donate money necessarily just for yourself, although that, you know, some of the money that Elon Musk donates is very self-serving, like when he donates $1 billion worth of Tesla shares to charities. I don't understand your point. Do you mean that they just should give away all their money?
Yes. I think they should give away all the $1 billion is so much money. And when she announced that she was donating $1 billion, I was like, that is really cool. Like, that's a lot of money. But her net worth is $11 billion.
Yeah, but I don't think she's done.
She's not finished.
You know what I mean? Like,
but it's $1 billion over the next 2 years is what she's saying.
Yeah, but
which isn't a lot.
After that 2 years, she's got a long life to live, hopefully, so she'll have more to donate. What's your point?
I think it's just so small. It's so small compared to the amount of wealth she has. She's going to die a billionaire.
Well, she may or may not die a billionaire. The way this conversation went on that Pivot podcast that we were talking about was about, so some of these billionaires, male and female, do plan to give away all their money, but after they die. It's this thing called the Giving Pledge that a lot of them have signed up to that's like, when I'm gone, all my money will go to these, apart from the little portion I'm going to keep for the kids or whatever, all my money is going to go to these causes. And that's great, but what a lot of people are saying is give it away now, give it away while you're alive, give it away to people who need it now to fix the problems we're facing now. And you're right, of course, as I say, it's not like they're renting and they're going to be massively disadvantaged by that. But isn't it a far, far better thing to be doing that and giving your money away, whether you're doing it in stages or all at once or whatever, than what a lot of these dudes seem to be doing, which is just finding ways to get more and more and more and more and more of it until they build themselves like a golden staircase to the moon.
That's capitalism. I thought it was interesting what Scott Galloway said on this podcast in this conversation, and he's an entrepreneur and very wealthy himself, and he said he picked a number that he needed to live his life, amount of money that he wanted, and he was talking about leaving his children just enough that they'll be comfortable but not so much that they don't need to work. So it's like if you leave your child too much, it can become, I mean, this is very privileged context, but you can actually fuck someone's life by giving them too much money and then they just do bad things with it and you rob them of any motivation or ambition. But he was saying, I picked a number and 7 years ago I hit that number of how much money I thought I needed.
I hit my number 7 years ago. My number's probably a lot lower than most of these guys. And I'm like, anything above that, I'm going to either spend it at the Hotel du Cap. Or
on me.
On friends and people I love, or I'm going to give it away. There is no reason once you're above a certain number to hoard wealth. Do you realize what a virus hoarding is in this nation?
But also, like, what is the definition of too much money?
Well, that's the question, right? Because it's interesting what you're saying about these women who got these massive amounts of money. And they didn't just get them. It's worth noting. It's not like they just got a really good divorce settlement. These women were both, particular women we're talking about here, they were both really involved in the businesses that made their partners billionaires, right? So they got their due and they're continuing to get their due. It's interesting to think, if you took your point to the extreme, that when you get that amount of money, you throw it all out, and you go back to working as, I don't know, a lawyer in a firm in New York and renting an apartment around the corner like a normal person. Why would you do that when you can have such an enormous impact on the world with all your
communism.
dollars? That's not communism, Mia.
Sounds like it to me.
But like, why would you
had
do
the
that when
impact.
you couldn't? When, like, if Melinda Gates has spent decades, as she has, like going and speaking to the people trying to cure malaria in Africa and doing all these things and understanding how NGOs work and doing all that stuff, why would you not use your money to empower those people?
No, I'm saying definitely use it. Just use more of it.
Yeah. I think benefit of the
Like,
doubt.
I'm not telling
I reckon
her
she's
to go
going
live in like a studio. Like, I'm not telling her to have my life, like live in your studio apartment and try to make ends meet. I'm saying, like, be a millionaire. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
That's heaps of money.
I agree.
No one needs to be a billionaire.
I agree with that 100%, that no one needs a billionaire. But since
I can't
we
believe
live in
that's
a
your
world.
takeaway, you guys, whenever we have this conversation, it's like someone announces they're donating $1 billion and it's like, well, why aren't they donating more?
That's not my takeaway.
Because $1 billion is so much
But
money.
it's 10% of all the money that she has. Do you donate 10% of all the money you have?
No, because I need that 10%. She doesn't need it.
Fair point, Em. And
Fair
I'm not criticising these women. I think they're
You don't know her
excellent
life.
examples.
I'm sorry, Melinda.
I think they are excellent examples. But what Em's vocalising, and she's right, is that we're living in a world now with more and more hyper-rich people than ever before, and nobody does need that much money.
There's also a flywheel. Like, Mark Zuckerberg can't stop earning money. Like, he's got these assets. Jeff Bezos, he's built these things. They're making money. The values of stock is increasing.
So do something
Set up some
with
direct
it,
debits.
which is what they're doing.
But they're all, like, we don't know, even these men, like, we don't know what any of these people are doing behind the scenes. We don't. Because remember, the more money you have and the more money you make, the more you can give away, whether it's during your lifetime with a warm hand or after you're gone with a cold hand. Isn't that a good thing? J-Lo cancelled her tour this week. Shit is going down, I think we can all agree. Oh, yes. And we unpack the details and have a bit of a Barney, actually, on a subscriber episode. Take a listen.
In on the JLo this week, heartbreaking news. She's cancelling her tour. She said it was cancelled. It's off.
Doesn't give a reason, except at the beginning of the On the JLo, it says Jennifer is taking time off to be with her children, family and close friends.
Now, what do you think everybody took from this particular...
Well, she's divorcing.
But I think that what she really could benefit from is disappearing for a while. Like, as a celebrity, you've got to know when people are sick of you.
So maybe she needs to disappear for a few years and then come back out with a tasteful breakup album.
Mia and I keep fighting about whose fault this split is, whether it's JLo or Ben. I want the Outlouders to weigh in because this is very petty and we don't know their lives, but I still think it's important.
If you enjoy the show, this show, the one you're listening to right now, and if we mean something to you in your ears, if we make your day or your week a little brighter, there are 2 ways that you can show it. Now, you can subscribe, of course. It's only $7 a month, which is less than the cost of a magazine or maybe 1.5 coffees, depending on where you buy them. Or we would love for you to just leave us a review. Wherever you're listening to your podcast now, it really makes a difference. Go do that.
We are done. The internet has run out of time and space for our endless conversations and arguments for today. But with very big thanks to you, our Outlouders, and to our brilliant production team, we are going to be back in your ears tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya. Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do it. There's a link in the episode description.